Hey everybody, this is Perch. But I want to talk Laura Kinney, Wolverine for a minute. A letter writer a bit back wrote in and was talking about piracy and Laura Kinney, and really the Laura Kinney aspect of the mail was nobody wants to buy Laura Kinney. They're announcing this Laura Kinney Sabertooth book. It's part of the Age of Revelation. It's most likely a 4 issue, 4.99 comic where we're going to explore Laura Kinney in a new role, a shocking role. She has adopted the mantle of Sabertooth, but why? Why? I mean, if Wolverine was her mentor and if Wolverine was, who she's always kind of aspired to be, why would she turn her back on that and become Sabertooth? And anyway, I'm sure there'll be a bullshittery reason like, Wolverine threw in with Cyclops and he turned his back and disgraced me. It wasn't when he was turned into death by Apocalypse or lost his bones or devolved or was crazy or any other 5,000 things. It was this alignment with Revelation, and then as a result, just to say fuck you, pseudo dad, I became Sabertooth. I hope not, by the way. If that is the background to that decision, that will be very, very sad. But because how petty. For just a moment, by the way, if you'll excuse this brief kind of aside, there is a guy who's getting a lot of heat on Twitter. And he's like, I don't know what else is new. Anyway, he drew a comic, kind of, I guess, inspired by the new Superman movie, where he's standing there, and there's there's a crowd, and somebody's falling to their death, and he starts to open up his shirt, and he's like got the suit, he's Superman underneath, and then he realizes the guy has a MAGA hat on, the guy who's falling, and then he just like whistles and closes his shirt. Yeah, basically the cartoon is like, I'm Superman and I save people, but not those people. Those people suck. I'm going to let those people die. And he's taking a lot of heat, like, oh, I guess I triggered MAGA. It's like, no, you drew a cartoon where you were saying you were Superman, and your version of Superman is where he lets people he disagrees with politically die. That's okay. I think you missed the message of Superman in there. Anyway, what is what does all that have to do with anything? Superheroes always suck unless they are villains when they're written to be ultra petty. And so I see writers do this kind of more frequently with characters. They're like the characters are becoming as petty as presumably they are on Twitter. And an example of petty would be you're Laura Kinney. You've been in the Marvel universe for 20 plus years. You have, searched for your identity. You've been mentored by Wolverine. You're part of the quote unquote Wolverine family. He does something you disagree with, and maybe it's a major disagreement, like a fundamental disagreement. He's joining Revolution. That's like joining the Republicans or whatever. And you're like, I'll get him back by taking the name of his greatest enemy. Yeah, you're petty as fuck at that point. Like if you're like, how for the reader, are you supposed to be reading this going, wow, that's heroic? Yeah, I'm on board with that. I don't know. Just by the way, I'm making a huge assumption. Maybe that's not why she's called Sabertooth. Who knows? Maybe. Who knows? Who knows? And honestly, when all is said and done, will it matter? But back to Laura Kinney. Laura Kinney has been Laura Kinney. She was NYX, then she was X-23 for a while, and then I think Tom Taylor was the one who's like, nope, we're calling her Wolverine. She is Wolverine. This was when Wolverine Logan died for a minute. What, 4 years? I don't know, a little bit. And then Laura Kinney's like, I'm the Wolverine now. And, that it didn't take for a variety of reasons. The only people who were really kind of behind on that were people who were, and I am absolutely convinced this is true, not reading the comics. And instead, we're using it as a way to troll people who were reading comics or pissed off around comics. So if you were one of those people who are like, Marvel's gone woke, then, invariably you're going to be paired up with your equally idiotic counterpart of, yeah, well, Miles is Spider-Man. Laura is Wolverine. It's like, okay, I'm glad Wikipedia filled you in on that, but you're all missing the point. Well, mostly that second group is really missing the point. And the point is building a character and having that character have unique powers, unique backstory, unique history, everything else, giving them the legacy title, basically somebody else's title, it fails way more often than it succeeds. And by the way, for what it's worth, whether it's a woman replacing a man or a black man replacing a white man or a gay person replacing a straight person, it doesn't really matter. It typically doesn't work. There's a few instances where a ton of effort going into why that story made sense helped. The biggest one, I think, would be the John Stewart Green Lantern or the Rhodey Iron Man. But in both cases, there was a lot of background that went into basically selling that. And in both cases, there's also precedent for it. With Green Lantern, Hal Jordan was never the only Green Lantern. I mean, from the jump, from the very first issue, you had there was a Green Lantern. It was an alien and passed the mantle on to Hal. Like you had always established there were lots of Green Lanterns flying around. So it wasn't this big stretch. And well, there's a third thing too. In Iron Man's case, they had established very firmly that Tony Stark had a secret identity. He was hanging out there. He had Iron Man. At times he would have Iron Man fly in just as a robot, or he'd put somebody else in there to kind of help conceal his secret identity and everything else. And then he became an alcoholic and he wasn't capable of doing it. And Rhodey came in and took the mantle, but it was very well built. But importantly, with both cases, other than inside the comic, John Stewart, I remember a comic where he's like, I'm the Green Lantern now. And it was like a teaser in the same kind of way that comics in the 70s would have Superman saying like, I'm going to kill all the bitches. And you're like, wow, what's Superman doing here? And then you read it and it's like, okay, that was just a cheap way to tease to get people to buy the comic. But you never had the fan base or the creators running around going, you're a bigot if you say that, John Stewart isn't Green Lantern. You didn't have that kind of thing. The creators knew what they were doing. They were creating a character and they were creating an identity, but by and large, those kinds of things fail. And so with Laura Kinney, like, look, can the character be successful? Absolutely. I mean, look around. There are successful examples of, Laura Kinney like characters. The ballerina film, which was a good film. And no, I'm not getting into that debate, but the ballerina film was a good film. If you haven't watched it, it was good. Had some good action. At no point in the ballerina film did the character go, my name is now John Wick. Like that didn't happen. That would be stupid and wasteful because the writers, the directors, and everybody involved in the movie had built up a pretty compelling, interesting character. If you believe that passing the mantle on is so critically important for the character to be popular, then you're kind of admitting that you think your audience, your readership, are idiots who are going to go, oh, wait a minute. I thought John Wick was a dude who looked like Keanu Reeves from that Bill and Ted's movie, but older. But now it's a girl. Well, I guess I must have had it wrong all these years. It is a girl. What are you doing? That's the level of stupidity that you find yourself getting into. With Laura Kinney, you have a fairly compelling character, interesting backstory, tortured clone, but what does that really mean? Lots of story developments you could do there. And you have somebody who, can be written kind of in a variety of ways. I think the Old Man Logan movie did a good job of doing that. I think the Deadpool Wolverine did a good job of doing that. But in the comics, there seems to be like very quickly, Taylor was the one who did it. We're like, we got to give this person a chip on their shoulder. And then, hey, let's quickly give this person a mentee. Let's give them this honey badger character. And it's like, well, hang on a second. Why you have a character who's come out, who was mentored by Wolverine, who's kind of doing her thing, trying to figure out her place in the world. And we're going to fast forward to now she's got somebody who she's teaching how to do like it's just bad writing. It's bad planning to go down that path. Like, let the character have some cool adventures. Let the character be themselves. I agree that having a comic titled Laura Kinney, I don't know if that would work. Maybe, though. If you just title that character Laura, that could work. But the second you title it Wolverine, then you have to explain, especially if you have the original Wolverine still running around, why this character is Wolverine and how it's different from the other Wolverine. And invariably it leads you to say stupid things like, well, why can't she be Wolverine? Well, it's a fictional character. She could be anything. You could call her Abraham Lincoln. You could do anything you want, but does it make sense? Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. That's the same thing with Miles, by the way. Miles is another one where it's like consistently shooting themselves in the head because you have Into the Spider-Verse, Miles Morales. What's interesting in those movies is they do not overdo it of having Miles run around going, "I am the Spider-Man." You don't he doesn't do it. He leans into Miles, and it's popular, and it works. And if you look at the comic book, when he leans into "I am Miles," it works. You can still say, "I'm a Spider-Man," or "I'm part of the Spider Clan," or "I've got a" whatever, "I've got spider powers." And you can still just say, "Hey, I'm Spider-Man in my reality," or "I'm Spider-Man." But you don't need to lean hard on it. It just all it does is create problems for you. You're just asking for more complicated things you have to explain. You already are trying to catch somebody's attention rapidly for a 4.99 comic. Why give yourself extra work to do? DC learned this lesson with Batman. You try and put somebody else under the cowl. Again, you can do it. Dick Grayson can do it. Damian can do it, but it's just making it harder for you to sell comics, to get people excited about it. It has nothing to do with online troll bigots who think women can't do anything but clean and fuck. It's that first of all, why are you wasting your time arguing with those people? They're not reading comics anyway. Just stop. It feels it simultaneously, and I mean, just as directly as humanly possible. It often feels like people in comics spend an inordinate amount of time worrying about what, Richard Meyer or the, geeks and gamers. Man, I don't think those two groups don't like each other, right? I think I'm just like, let me lump these people together who are we're having a fight. Anyway, why are you playing to that audience? If you're frustrated with that audience, you don't like that audience, why in the holy fuck would you then spend an inordinate amount of your time writing comics and stories and lines designed to kind of show up that audience? Move on. Go sell your comics to other people. I don't know. It just seems crazy to me. You need to, if you want to get Laura Kinney over, don't worry about, if you think the secret to her success is the name Wolverine, you've lost. You're the wrong writer. You're the wrong person to shepherd this character. What you need are a couple badass adventures. And honestly, it wouldn't take much. You give Laura Kinney two really good arcs, 6 issues each, 12 issues, you would have a top 5 character on your hands. And those, like, go look at the Enemy of the State series that Mark Miller did for Wolverine a long time ago. Do something like that with Laura. Don't copy it directly, you dumbass, but just that something like that. Globe-trotting kind of adventure, guest appearances by some of the Marvel characters, something dangerous, something that's got to show kind of both the sneakiness and the brutality of the character. Don't just have the character on a mission. Don't write the character to be kind of this unfeeling bitch. Just have her like, I've got to solve something. I'm going to go do it. And don't worry, don't put her in a weird Wolverine cloned costume. For the majority of this thing, you should have her just in kind of jeans and a jacket, the clothing that made her successful in NYX and some of the earlier appearances, and just do something that shows the grittiness, toughness, and heroism of the character. 2 arcs like that, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you call her. Simple. Anyway, thanks for listening.